Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend and that your week has started off well. It's only Tuesday, but I don't know, yesterday I thought it was Tuesday, and today I thought it was Wednesday, and I clearly have no idea what day of the week it is, but hopefully I will survive through the week. Well, of course I'm going to survive. You know what I mean. I'm just being overly dramatical, which isn't a word, because when you're overly dramatical, you have to use words that are made up, and overly dramatical. Okay, so this episode is entitled, Are You Getting Enough Fiber? And fiber, I think, is something that we maybe struggle with. Digestive health is so important, and it can be a very delicate balance, I feel like. Like, you know, you don't get enough fiber and then you're bloated and constipated and unhappy. You get too much fiber and then you're bloated and have diarrhea and you're unhappy. I don't know. I would imagine that most people fall more toward the first one than the second one, but it is, digestive health does lead to the second one. And as someone who has a family member who struggles on a pretty daily basis with digestive health, it can be a very challenging thing to live with and try to figure out how to find that balance. So we are going to talk about fiber, how much you need, how to get it, all that good stuff. So there is a new study, according to Medical News Today, a newish study. Anyway, this article was from January, but still, that's within the last year. It's a new meta-analysis that has examined 40 years worth of research in an attempt to find out just exactly how much fiber we should be getting. The ideal amount of fiber we should consume to prevent chronic disease and premature mortality. So it's not just digestive health. It is chronic disease and premature mortality. Wow. Did you know that fiber was that important? Researchers and public health organizations have long hailed the benefits of eating fiber, but the question is, of course, how much fiber should we eat daily? And if you look it up on the internet, you can find a number, and then you can look somewhere else and probably find a different number. And of course, you get different numbers depending on your age and various factors. The question, though, prompted the World Health Organization to commission a new study. The results appeared in the journal The Lancet. This research aimed to help develop new guidelines for dietary fiber consumption, as well as reveal which carbs protect the most against non-communicable diseases and can stave off weight gain. Okay, so here you may be thinking, if you are on a low-carb diet, it can be really hard to get in the fiber that you need, right? And then you don't feel great because you're not getting in fiber because you're going so low carb that you're just getting protein and fat and not enough fiber. I know of what I speak. And so yes, you need to pay attention to your carbs, but also, and things with fiber tend to have carbs, but then are you counting your total overall carbs? Do you have a goal that's your total carbs, or do you have a goal that's your net carbs? Because carbs, if you subtract out the grams of fiber, then you get your total carbs is just that straightforward number of grams of carbs that you consume throughout the day. But if you subtract out the fiber, the carbs that are, or the fiber from the total number of carbs, then you get the net carbs, which can be a different amount. Well, it should be a different amount. So, non-communicable diseases are also called chronic diseases. They typically last for a long time and progress slowly. So according to WHO, which is the World Health Organization, there are 4 main types of non-communicable diseases: cardiovascular diseases, cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. None of those sound great, right? Professor Jim Mann of the University of Otago in New Zealand is the corresponding author of the study, and Andrew Reynolds, a postdoctoral research fellow at Otago's Dunedin School of Medicine, is the first author of the paper. Professor Mann explains the motivation for the study, saying previous reviews and meta-analyses have usually examined a single indicator of carbohydrate quality and a limited number of diseases. So it has not been possible to establish which foods to recommend for protecting against a range of conditions. To find out, the researchers performed a meta-analysis of observational studies and clinical trials. So Reynolds and colleagues examined the data included in 185 observational studies amounting to 135 million person years, and 58 clinical trials, which recruited over 4,600 people in total. The studies analyzed took place over almost 40 years. So this is a very broad range. This is a very broad study. There's a lot of data being analyzed. That is, that's a lot of wading through data. But so the scientists investigated the incidence of certain chronic diseases as well as the rate of premature deaths resulting from them. These conditions were coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, colon cancer, and a range of obesity-related cancers, such as breast cancer, endometrial cancer, esophageal cancer, and prostate cancer. None of those, again, are good. Then none of those sound good. Overall, the research found that people who consume the most fiber in their diet are 15 to 30% less likely to die prematurely from any cause of a cardiovascular condition compared with those who eat the least fiber. Consuming foods rich in fiber correlated with a 16 to 24% lower incidence of coronary heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and colon cancer. Fiber-rich foods include whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and pulses such as peas, beans, lentils, and chickpeas. All of those wonderful fiberful foods. The analysis also revealed that the amount of fiber that people should consume daily to gain these health benefits is 25 to 29 grams per day. By comparison, adults in the U.S. consume about 15 grams of fiber daily on average. So that's almost half of what they should be consuming, 25 to 29 grams. The authors also suggest that consuming more than 29 grams of fiber per day may yield even more health benefits. However, they do caution that while the study in itself did not find any adverse health effects of consuming fiber, eating too much of it may be damaging for people with insufficient iron or minerals. So I guess don't, like everything, what's my constant refrain here? Do you want to say it with me? Everything in moderation, right? So don't go trying to eat like 100 grams of fiber every day. And I don't know. I don't even know how I would do that. But eating large amounts of whole grains can further deplete the body of iron, explain the researchers. Finally, the clinical trials included in the study also revealed that consuming more fiber correlates strongly with lower weight and lower cholesterol levels. Those are both good things. If you are trying to lose weight, maybe and you're going low carb, well, maybe you can find that healthy balance between low carb and high fiber. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I bet there's a diet out there somewhere, or an eating plan, if you don't like the word diet, that would combine those two things. We'll have to look into that. I'm not sure. But lower cholesterol, always good. At least you want to lower the cholesterol that you want to lower, the LDL. You want to keep the other one good. High, HDL. I can speak, really, I can. Let's take a break because I apparently need to get my tongue untwisted. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Today we are talking about fiber and how much you should eat and why eating more fiber is good for your health. Turns out that you should be eating between 25 and 29 grams of fiber per day, and this amount of fiber can greatly increase your or reduce, I guess I was going to say increase your risk, increase your health benefits, or reduce your risks of certain non-communicable or chronic diseases. And so it can also lower your weight and lower your cholesterol levels. So why exactly is fiber so good for you? Why does it provide all of these wonderful health benefits? Well, Professor Mann comments on the significance of the findings, saying the health benefits of fiber are supported by over 100 years of research into its chemistry, physical properties, physiology, and effects on metabolism. Fiber-rich whole foods that require chewing and retain much of their structure in the gut increase satiety, being satiated, and help weight control and can favorably influence lipid and glucose levels, he adds. The breakdown of fiber in the large bowel by the resident bacteria has additional wide-ranging effects, including protection from colorectal cancer. Our findings provide convincing evidence for nutrition guidelines to focus on increasing dietary fiber and on replacing refined grains with whole grains. This reduces incidence, risk, and mortality from a broad range of important diseases. So that is fascinating, I think. Fiber is apparently the new superfood. But to unpack that a little bit, the professor is the thing that caught me was to reduce your processed grains and eat more whole grains. And when you're shopping, you're going to see lots of things that say whole grain and, first ingredient is whole grain, other things. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are whole grains and how can we know which ones are better for us? Okay, so whole grain is a grain of any cereal and pseudo-cereal that contains the endosperm, germ, and bran, which you don't necessarily need to know what all that means. It's just in contrast to refined grains, which retain only the endosperm. So it's a whole grain. It means they keep the whole thing. Easy enough to remember, right? And you don't need to remember all of those words, especially because endosperm is probably not something that you want to be throwing around in regular conversation, especially if you're around teenagers, because they're just going to get that look on their face. Trust me, I know. At any rate, what are some good sources of whole grains? Well, all types of grains are good sources of complex carbohydrates and some key vitamins and minerals, but whole grains, this is according to Mayo Clinic, the whole grains are the healthiest of grains and are part of a healthy diet. So, Grains are, as we've said, naturally high in fiber. They can help you feel more full and satisfied, which makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight. And as we just were talking about, whole grains are also linked to a lower risk of heart disease, diabetes, certain cancers, and other health problems. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that at least half of all the grains you eat are whole grains. If you're like most people, you're not getting enough whole grains, so you need to work on how to make that a part of your life. And whenever I read articles like this, I've said this before, but they always say most people aren't getting enough of this, most people aren't getting enough of this, most people aren't getting enough of X, Y, and Z. And I think, man, do you just have to eat constantly all day? I have to ask somebody this, how you fit in everything, how you get in the recommended number of vitamins and nutrients and minerals and whole grains and carbs and fiber and all of that. How is there like one? Clearly, if there were one amazing super dietary plan, we would know it. But we keep trying things, right? And we keep going on these different courses, and then there's new research. And yeah, okay. So back to the whole grains. Also called cereals, grains, and whole grains are the seeds of grasses cultivated for food. Grains and whole grains come in many shapes and sizes, from large kernels of popcorn to small quinoa seeds. Whole grains are either present in their whole form or ground into a flour while retaining all of their parts. Those three words, the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. Compared with other types of grains, whole grains are better sources of fiber and other important nutrients such as B vitamins, iron, folate, selenium, potassium, and magnesium. Whole grains are either single foods, such as brown rice and popcorn, or ingredients in products, such as buckwheat in pancakes or whole wheat flour in bread. So refined grains are then the ones that are milled to only have the germ. They take out only have the endosperm. They take out the germ and the bran. This gives it a finer texture. If you think about whole grains, a lot of people don't like I think whole wheat bread is getting more popular, but when I was growing up, people didn't like whole wheat bread because it was a different texture. They liked that soft, my mom always called it worthless Wonder Bread. We didn't eat a lot of white bread in my family, but whole wheat then is made with, well, hey, whole is in the word, right? You still have wheat flour and white flour. You just have a different variety of it. So that's the refined grains. It gives them a finer texture and extends their shelf life. But the refining process also removes many nutrients, including the fiber. And many breads, cereals, crackers, desserts, and pastries are made with refined grains. Okay, there's also enriched grains. This means that some of the nutrients lost during processing are replaced. So they're still refined grains, but they've added in some of those lost nutrients. Some enriched grains have replaced the B vitamins lost during milling. Fortifying means adding in nutrients that don't occur naturally in the food. Most refined grains are enriched, and many enriched grains are also fortified with other vitamins and minerals, such as folic acid and iron. Whole grains may or may not be fortified. So when you see something that says enriched white flour or something along those lines, you will know what that means. All right, so it's recommended that you make at least half of the grains in your diet whole grains. You can find whole grain versions of rice, bread, cereal, flour, and pasta at most grocery stores. If you make your own, you can certainly buy those types of flour. Many whole grain foods, including a variety of breads, pasta, and cereals, are made and ready to eat. Examples of whole grains include barley, brown rice, buckwheat, bulgur, which is cracked wheat, millet, oatmeal, popcorn, and whole wheat bread, pasta, or crackers. So all of those are examples of whole grains. It's not always easy to tell what kind of grains something has. Here we go back to my other refrain of checking your labels. Read the labels. Especially on bread, it's hard to sometimes tell. For instance, brown bread isn't necessarily whole wheat. The brown, hue may come from added coloring. You want to make sure that the packaging actually says whole wheat. If you're not sure, of course, check the product label or the nutrition facts. Look for the word whole on the package and make sure whole grains appear among the first items in the ingredients list. And what was I looking at the other day? I don't eat a lot of cereal, but I was noticing, I don't know, was it Chex? Was it Cheerios? One of those brands, but it says whole grain is the first ingredient. So it says that right on the box in pretty big lettering. There, of course, is more to talk about in terms of whole grains and fiber sources. We are going to take our second break of the podcast, though, so stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We're talking about fiber, which led us to talk about whole grains, and we were talking about whole wheat bread. And as I was reading through all of this information, I saw something that I found pretty interesting. What about white whole wheat bread? And actually, white whole wheat bread is made with whole grains, just as regular whole wheat bread. White whole wheat bread is nutritionally similar to regular whole wheat bread. So if you prefer the taste and texture of white bread but want the nutritional benefits of whole wheat, choose white whole wheat bread over refined white bread. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever paid attention and noticed white whole wheat bread. I know there is a bistro. It's called, well, we just call it the bistro, in my hometown in Montana, and they have this really amazing sourdough bread, but it is not white flour. It's whole wheat. So it's whole grains, which is very cool. Here is a word of caution, though. If all of the grains you eat are whole grains, then you need to take extra care to get sufficient folic acid, a B vitamin. While most refined grain products are fortified, whole grains are not typically fortified with folic acid. So there's always a catch, right? Look for whole grains that have been fortified with folic acid, such as some ready-to-eat cereals. Eat plenty of other folate-rich foods, including fruits, vegetables, and legumes. Folic acid is especially important for women who could become pregnant or are pregnant. And when you look at a lot of prenatal vitamins, folic acid is a big part of those. All right, so you want more fiber in your diet and you don't just want to eat whole grains, which is completely understandable. What are some other foods that have good sources of fiber? Well, let's look into that a little bit, shall we? And actually, we need to touch on something that I haven't touched on, and that is that there are two kinds of fiber, insoluble and soluble. Insoluble does not dissolve in water. It's the bulky fiber that helps to prevent constipation. That's good to have. And is found in those whole grains, wheat cereals, and vegetables such as carrots, celery, and tomatoes. Soluble fiber does dissolve in water and helps control blood sugar levels and reduce cholesterol. Good sources include barley, oatmeal, beans, nuts, and fruits such as apples, berries, citrus fruits, and pears. Many foods contain both soluble and insoluble fiber. In general, the more natural and unprocessed the food, the higher it is in fiber. There is no fiber in meat, dairy, or sugar. Just one more reason not to eat sugar, right? Dang. Refined or quote-unquote white foods, such as white bread, white rice, and pastries, have had all or most of their fiber removed. So sad. All right, so what are some good sources of fiber? Well, we've already talked about the whole grains. There's also fruits and vegetables. Obviously, it just mentioned insoluble fiber in like carrots and celery. Often when we think about fiber, we think about celery, or at least I do. I don't know why. So some things to think about. Starting your day with fiber. You can look for whole grain cereals to put in your breakfast. Simply switching your breakfast cereal from cornflakes to bran flakes, if you're a cereal eater, can add an extra 6 grams of fiber to your diet. Switching to all bran or fiber 1 will boost it even more. If those cereals aren't to your liking, try adding a few tablespoons of unprocessed wheat bran to your favorite cereal. You can replace white rice, bread, and pasta with brown rice and whole grain products. I did that years ago, and I actually like it better. We were talking about some people not liking the texture of whole wheat bread, but I just like it better. I like brown rice better than white rice. I like whole wheat bread better than white bread. I just do. If you like to bake, you can bulk up your baking by substituting whole grain flour or for half or all of your white flour. In yeast breads, you're going to want to use a bit more yeast or let the dough rise longer because whole grain flour is heavier than white flour. You can add crushed bran cereal or unprocessed wheat bran to muffins, cakes, and cookies. You can also add psyllium husk to gluten-free baked goods such as breads, pizza dough, and pasta. Psyllium husk is a good source of fiber. It can be kind of hard to find. I was just having a conversation about that with a friend of mine. Add flaxseed. We do that in my household. You can buy it as seeds and grind it, or you can buy it already pre-ground. My goodness. Flax seeds are high in fiber and omega-3 fatty acids. That's why I started using flaxseed, because I needed to work on my triglycerides, and it did help. Fiber from fruit and vegetables. Most fruits and vegetables are high in fiber, which is another reason to include more of them in your daily diet. So you can add fruit to your breakfast. Berries are high in fiber. So if you're eating that cereal, you can add blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, or blackberries to that morning cereal or yogurt. Oh, I used to eat a ton of yogurt and fruit. Loved it. You can keep fruits and vegetables at your fingertips, so always carry snackies of fruits or vegetables. You can wash and dry them or wash and cut them, and then put them in your refrigerator to quickly grab for a healthy snack, or throw them in your bag that you take to work. And you can replace dessert with fruit. It sounds so simple, right? But sometimes I crave fruit. I do. And other times I crave chocolate, which is not fruit. But, you can eat a piece of fruit. Because if you're like a lot of people after a meal, you just want something sweet. You just want to snack on something sweet. So try replacing regular dessert with fruit. Again, everything in moderation. You don't have to always do that. But eat the peel. Peeling can reduce the amount of fiber in fruits and vegetables, so eat the peel of fruits such as apples and pears. Incorporate those veggies into your cooking. You can always add pre-cut fresh or frozen vegetables to soups and sauces, or as we talked about in the last episode, purees. Adding pumpkin puree, cauliflower puree, all kinds of purees can help to bulk things up. You can add nuts, seeds, kidney beans, peas, or black beans to your salads or your soups. Artichokes are also very high in fiber and can be added to salads or eaten as a snack. Beans, peas, and lentils and rice also make tasty high fiber additions to soups and stews. Don't leave out the legumes, which is add kidney beans, peas, or lentils to soups, or black beans to a green salad. I really like to add kidney beans and chickpeas to my salad when I am trying to increase my fiber. Make your snacks count. Fresh and dried fruit raw vegetables and whole grain crackers are all good ways to add fiber at snack time. A handful of nuts can also make a healthy, high fiber snack. So there are all kinds of ways to add fiber to your diet, and fiber can be very, very beneficial to your overall health. So look into what foods contain fiber, what foods fit into whatever current plan that you are trying to adhere to in terms of your eating habits, your nutritional, your meal plans, your life plan, your eating plan, whatever you want to call it, your lifestyle change, however you're referring to it. See how you can add fiber into that, and fiber is going to, do a lot of really good things in your body, not just help you to not feel so terribly blah and bloated and yucky. On that note, I am going to wrap up this episode of the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Stay tuned. No, not stay tuned. We're not taking a break. I guess stay tuned until Friday for the next episode, and hopefully I'll be more awake. My goodness, what was wrong with me this episode? Maybe I need more fiber. Please join me for the next episode of the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, where hopefully your host will be able to speak in complete sentences. Thank you, and be well.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.